Hello, risers, and welcome to another episode of Rising with Christian. I hope y'all are doing good out here. There is so much going on in the world, and I just want to remind you that you are the light in the midst of darkness, that God is with you, that you are stronger than you think, and that no matter what obstacle come your way, that you have what it takes to overcome it. So just keep rising. And I am so excited to have a special guest with us today. It's my boo.
Whoop.
You want to speak to the people?
What's up, people? I'm just grateful to be here and just being able to see the transformation and the evolution of the podcast and all of the listeners and risers. It's encouraging to just get continue to get that feedback and just see about just to hear about all of the impact that the podcast is having. So
Yes,
congrats to
yes.
you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I do have some loyal followers and some new followers. And it's crazy because I looked in my analytics last month and you have people in different countries. And
Wow,
I was like, wow, that's amazing.
that's powerful.
That God is doing that. So we wanted to get on here because we just wanted to have an organic conversation around things we've learned in our marriage. I know that the enemy is out here, y'all, trying to kill, steal, and destroy. And one thing that I just keep hearing about is the failures of relationships, the failures of marriage. And we've been together for 5 years, married almost 3, and we don't have it all. We don't know it all, but we're very transparent in what we do know and how we're super intentional about how we show up. So how do you feel about talking about things we've learned in our marriage?
No, I'm excited about it. I think that it's just I think it's just so important for all of us to just have those authentic conversations with ourselves and with others,
Mhm.
and sort of demystify the false information that I think
Mhm.
is starting to be shared, just around you know how marriage is hard, and that it may not be worth it, but I
Yeah.
could tell you it is hard, but it's totally worth it. So,
Mhm.
and there's just more positives
Right.
and pluses than it is negatives, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, and I just want to first say that I'm a planner. I want to talk about the questions and what we're going to talk about, and he's totally a go with the flow person, and that was even a compromise
Yeah.
that we had with this was okay. Let's just make it organic. Let's just. I had to get out of my comfort zone to not have these curated questions
Right.
and to trust that the Holy Spirit would lead the conversation.
No doubt. No doubt. But I also realize that there's power in the way you do things too,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I even recognize that you made that compromise, which I appreciate, because we probably would have gone back and forth
Yeah.
on that. But that's this self-awareness that we both have developed over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And knowing when to push and pull, and it's not about winning,
Mm-hmm.
the fight, but it's more around winning the relationship.
Right. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, our motto, okay, first I would say, I think that we're in this amazing groove. And it took us 3.5, 4 years to get
Yeah, yeah,
here,
yeah.
right? Um, it took us a minute to get here. And understanding the push and the pull, and that if you have this mindset that I'm winning, I'm right, you're wrong, you both lose. You both are wrong. And
Right.
so how do you compromise? How do you hold your tongue? How do you pick your battles wisely? How do you anticipate the person's needs or desires or things that even tick them off before it even happens? And that just takes you have to want to study. You have to want to study the other person.
Right. And patience, lots of patience, just being able, and then also seeking help that is agnostic to one person's view and opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just a lot of the counseling and therapy that we have therapy separately,
Mm-hmm.
but then we have our joint counseling. So the combination of both of those together has made us even more intentional around engineering what we want our desired life to be.
Right. So I think this will be a good time for us to talk about like things that we put in place to have a foundational marriage.
Right.
And the first thing that I would say is having a couples counselor. So we had one. We were first introduced to it maybe 2 years ago. And the person's like wisdom or knowledge didn't align with us, our pillars, our values as people. And so I remember like towards the end, we would leave, and even Matt came to me one time, was like, she told me this, and I don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't align with that. So having the wisdom and knowledge of who pours into your marriage, who pours into like who do you go to like when you're having trouble or when you're joyful, because not everyone like wants to see you happy. So I will say all that to say, like, I do believe that having a non-biased, as you said, agnostic, I like that, person has really like transformed our marriage. Like it even sometimes like it's been the referee, it's been the coach, it's been Jesus. Like it has been so amazing because they help you merge the two languages that you all have and make it one.
That's good. That's good. And it helps us also to understand like people who may really have our best interests.
Yeah.
The context in which their view may be, tainted, right, through their own experiences. So I think that's also the power of getting that outside like counsel and perspective from someone who one may not originally know you all, because the history can also create some biases, the history that they may have had with you. Even I'll give an example, like my friends, right? Like they have a history with me. And if they haven't developed at the same pace, or they're not in the same zone and focus that I'm in, their advice and perspective, while it's noted, it also can be flawed in how I should be doing what I need to do to make my marriage successful.
Right. So I think having the and being unafraid to say this is not the right situation for me. Like you've had a conversation with a friend, or like my mom was my go-to. And even in that, like though we're besties and we're best friends, like I had to still honor him and say, okay, I'm going to take it to God, or I'm going to write it down to go to my therapist. Like I'm going to bring it to the therapist and really give it a fair shot. And my mom was like amazing. She's great.
Gonna lie. She's pretty good. I like her. I take her counsel too.
She counseled me. She counseled him. She counseled both of us, right? Yeah. And she will say, Christian, you're wrong. Like, no, you're. I'm like,
yeah.
She's so honest. But even then, we wanted to go to someone that didn't know either of us,
right? Because we also become vulnerable too.
Yeah.
Probably at a different level. Like we're both pretty vulnerable with your mom, but there's still like this additional, there's layers of vulnerability, right?
Yeah.
And so I think even that is powerful.
Yeah. What would you say, like, is something that, whether it's like a friends or dating or marriage, is like, what would you say is something that the enemy, an area that the enemy comes and infiltrates time and time again, that really destroys relationships or marriages? Or I mean, it could be personal hours. I mean, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I would say at times of like friction or confrontation, that's like the easiest place where y'all are vulnerable. So I think when that occurs, the trigger should be and do the opposite of what feels natural, right? The natural thing is to kind of like create distance, but that's when you probably should try to close the gap even further and say, no, we're not going to create distance, because if we create distance, that leaves room for the enemy to try to infiltrate, versus saying, you know what, even though we may not be like each other right now, we love each other, so we're going to get close, and we're going to close the proximity, and we're going to talk about it and communicate. And that's how I've found for us to be able to disrupt that.
Yeah. And to like consider the other person's like their perspective, because you're marrying or you're dating someone and they have a totally different way of doing things. So Matt and I early on, like, we would argue, and like every 6 months we just because he has a way of doing something and I have a way.
Christian, it was more frequent than every 6 months.
More frequent?
What, of us arguing?
Oh, okay.
Let the people know, okay?
I mean, what, every 3 months?
No. Well, it could be something small, right?
I mean, maybe argument versus disagreements. Like, disagreements happen, but I'm talking about like major, like,
okay, all right, fair enough.
I'm about to get my nails done. I'm sick of you. Bye.
Okay,
like,
all right.
That was maybe a couple times a year.
All right, yeah.
But disagreements happen.
Sure.
So,
okay, all right, fair enough. We're on the same page.
We're on the same page.
We just worked it out. Y'all just saw it in real time what happens in our household, but we just got it together and now we're back.
Right. So what was I saying?
You was talking about how the arguments happen and how to.
Okay, thank you. See, we help each other out. So I was saying, like, for me in past relationships, I was always want to be right, or I want to always point the finger. You did this, you did that. You're not doing this, you're not doing that. But I come at a place where I'm like, God, I am so grateful right now to try to work this thing out. I'm so grateful, God, that you chose me strong enough to solve this problem. I'm so grateful, God, that you decided that I can be a person that gives grace and forgives. And so it's not like I'm keeping score or you did this, you did that, because like when Matt and I are not on one accord, our entire life suffers.
Yes.
Like, you want to talk about that? Like, when you're not on one accord with your spouse, your entire life suffers, because the enemy knows, like, if they're not on one accord, their vision is not going to be on one accord. Their intellect, the way they move, their emotions. And so we have to stay on one accord so that we can have a foundational life. Like, did you want to talk about that? Like, how not being on one accord affects other areas?
Yeah, I mean, because think about it, right? Even if we just, apply logic to this, right? Being on one accord is like, if we're not on one accord, we're taking our energy and we're putting it, we only got but so much energy units or focus units, right? So if I only have, let's say 10 focus units, and everybody's different, but if I only have 10 focus units, and then not only am I taking some of those focus units for our misalignment and argument, but then I'm also taking away those focus units because I'm thinking about the problem while I'm supposed to be focused on something else that could be moving us forward. So now I went from 10 focus units to now maybe only 2, where when we're on the same alignment, I might have 7 focus units to actually move us forward. And the 3 is to pour in us, but you can't, you just, your energy is just tainted. And I mean, my morale, and I think just gratitude too, you had mentioned that, like, gratitude, like, it's very difficult to be in a state of gratitude and then also not have an abundance mindset or not have a positive energy that you're trying to give away. So I try to, for me, and I know you've practiced this a lot too, is just be in this place of gratitude, then allows us to say, you know what, it's not that big of a deal, right? Like I'm not about to let this small thing disrupt this current like state and mindset that we're in, because we know the power of it when it, starts, that energy goes into other areas of our life. Working out, community, spiritually, everything flows.
That's good. That's good.
So what would you say, I'm gonna throw one at you, right? What would you say as a spouse? Right? I'm not even gonna say woman, because I know the world we live in today, we want to be open-minded, right? So as a spouse, what would you say from the seat that you sit in? How do you try to serve, but particularly based on what you know about me?
Oh, that's good. So the first thing I would say is own your lane, right? I would say, like, I just came to grips that Matt is like the breadwinner of the home, that although I am an entrepreneur, like I'm not bringing in the money that he brings in. And I would say there was guilt associated with that. Like he would say, Christian, don't worry, I got you, I'm gonna take care of the house. And I'm like, well, me cooking isn't that valuable. Like you're bringing in money. Me cleaning the home isn't that valuable. Me, making sure that we have our vitamins and we have our appointments and our, we have family time and things are scheduled, and I'm sending gifts to our family, and just making sure everything runs smoothly. I had to come to grips to not compare the giving, to not compare the way in which God has called us to serve, and to not feel less than. So once I embraced that my role is equally important and that you cannot put a dollar amount on it, I began to like doing it. It was no longer a chore. It was no longer me. Like my bill's been good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all you gotta say? That's it?
But your bill's been good?
My meals.
Oh, yeah, they've been bomb.
They've been bomb.
For sure. Oh, yeah.
Because I do it with love. I do it.
That makes sense now. I seen the evolution
love.
for sure.
Yeah.
I seen it.
Okay.
It went.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. That's enough.
All right. Yep.
But like I no longer am doing this like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this and it's not as valuable. I'm doing this and it's not as appreciated. Matt tells me all this time, like, I appreciate you. Like I could not be an entrepreneur if you were not feeding me water, if you were not, praying over the home. And so I would say understanding that you appreciate what I bring, I appreciate what you bring, and there is not a comparison. Because I think oftentimes, like as women, whether we're dating or courting, we are naturally nurturers. Right. So we're wanting to like nurture you. We're wanting to fit into this ideal of who you think we should be and how we should show up. And like we have to flow, women, we have to flow naturally. Like if this is what you can give, if this is what you offer, if this is how much you make, own it, embrace it. He chose you. God put you all together for a reason. So me knowing now, like even things like, okay, if Matt is in a meeting or I don't see him or talk to him much throughout the day, it's not that he don't want to talk to me or he feels some type of way. He's working, he's grinding. Right. Like I would go through the house like, you're not looking at me, you're not talking to me, you don't even give me attention. But I know, like, I understand now that he's focused, he's grinding. I used to get frustrated that he wasn't eating during the day, but when he's like head down, so guess what? I bring things to him now. I text him and say, hey, don't forget this. So I would say just embracing your lane and not comparing it to what your spouse has to bring. Right.
But I would also say not just only embracing your lane, but then the season too, because like right now, very clearly that I'm intentionally, and this is because of my lack of understanding about business, and now what I understand about it, I'm on this race to get time freedom to be able to have a more open time schedule to be more with my family. But the longer it takes for me to get there, right, then it's harder for me to it's going to be more difficult later down the road. So I'm like trying to eat this box of pain fast. But I also had to understand that you still need a certain level of time and commitment to me serving too, right? Because serving goes both ways. Like I can't just only be about the grind. And it's not that you're saying, hey, I'm only cooking and cleaning. Like you're working, right? You're grinding too. Right, you grind into, and you had to grow as an entrepreneur, and you've grown tremendously. And you're like, okay, if Matt earns another dollar because he has more leverage point, like that's more resources that can be allocated as a family to then unlock more time, and then you're able to give up some of those responsibilities that you currently have
Yeah.
to be able to open your time up to then be able to pour more and more into your vision too.
Right.
So it's like that's a season, because there is going to be a point in time where you're actually grinding harder than I am.
I mean, it's,
right?
it's
And
like
that's
that
happening now.
sometimes. Like,
And I feel like it's happening now. Like, you know, you're grinding
weekends,
more
I'm working.
harder than I am. Like, you're doing the more difficult things. For me, I'm
Right.
delegating and coordinating. And my
Right.
job is not as hard as it used to be. You're in the seed planting
and
business right now.
Even in that, Matt is like, hey, Christian, you don't need to cook. You don't have time to cook. And I'm still trying to say,
Right.
well, I want to cook and I just love cooking. And he's like, Christian, you don't have time. We will order. Actually, someone just delivered food to our house for meal prep right now, because the season has shifted. And I have to say, okay, God, if you're wanting to expand my territory, I'm not less of a woman or less of a wife because I don't have the time capacity to do what I once did in a different season.
Right.
So embracing the season, talking about the season, communicating about the season, like, because we have our family meetings. We slipped off a little bit, but we started it back up.
We got it back together.
And what do we talk about in those meetings? Like, why is it so important?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first things first, we talk about like what's going on in our lives, like how are we feeling, right? About just ourselves, but then also our relationship. We also speak on just finances, really looking at our spending plan. I'm not going to call it a budget. We can call it a spending plan. I don't think a budget sounds restrictive. Spending plan sounds more of a life of abundance. So we talk about our spending plan and our giving plan and all the things that are emotions, because at the end of the day, like, we know that the reason why we spend the time on that is that, like, your dollars are directly aligned with your values. So we can actually see where is our resources and time going. So we look at our calendars. How are we, like, do we have time together outside of the normal routine? Like, we do date night every Friday, but sometimes we need to mix it up. We can't just only do date nights on Fridays. Right. So like last week, yesterday, right?
So fun.
That was fun. Like, we did something spontaneous. You want to tell them what you
got? Oh, yeah.
Tell them what you did. Tell them what you did.
That was a good topic, too.
Okay.
So, y'all got a nose ring. Oh, can you see it for those who are watching
Christian
online?
B. Aaron got a nose ring, y'all. Oh, really?
My gosh. So, let's talk about the compromise. Okay. Because a year ago, I was like, man, I want a nose ring. I've been wanting a nose ring since I was 18. And everyone's telling me why I should not get it. And I've embraced my evolution to, like, I want to live and do what I want to do. And I can't do everything I want to do because I'm a child of God and all of that. But, like, a nose ring does not define my relationship with God or my professionalism. And so because at first you was like, I don't know about that, but what made you shift your thoughts?
I think just, I think it's very dynamic, right? Because in that season, that was also a different season that we are in now. So I think I'm in the season of not allowing, that's the wrong word, because I don't allow you to do anything. You do what you want.
Yeah, come on.
But I'm in the season now of being okay with you experiencing life and also learning from life.
Yeah.
So you may very much enjoy this decision you made. Or maybe 10 years from now, you might say, I wish I ain't never get this nose ring. But you know what? That's life, and we're going to learn from it.
Yeah.
But you never know unless you go off and do it, right? So there's this risk and reward factor, right? Like, and that's also the beauty of abundance. Like, there is no, like, who's going to, like, no one can dictate the happiness that we have.
Right.
So if that makes you happy, do it. The consequences that come from that decision, we're going to deal with, and we still going to be okay because nobody can take that piece from us.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's like you said, in a relationship, like, every person has authority and autonomy. Like, no one can tell. Some people try, but no one can really, you can't really, even if someone tells you what to do, you still have to mentally decide, I'm going to listen to that or not.
Right.
And the reason why I didn't get it in that season last year is because we had some foundational things that we needed to work out, right? I think we were shifting from one counselor to another. We were trying to find our groove. We had just moved into a new apartment. Like, it was just so much happening to where I said, if I got this right now and he's a bit uncertain, like, it could start a war. Something so simple, y'all. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Something so simple can turn into something massive when it's placed into the hands of the enemy. And so I said, God, like, I am going to make sure we focus on the foundational things, agree upon that. A nose ring, a dog for him. Like, we're going to put that to the side. He wanted a dog. I'm like, we're not doing that right now.
But you did say I could have a dog.
Yes.
Okay. So it's we got it on this thing Lord, now. So you ain't no going back, but y'all heard it.
But okay. For me, it was a nose ring. Like, I don't know. For you, it was a dog. I was like, I ain't got time to be doing that right now.
And I said in this season, I get it. You know, we probably ain't in the right space right now for sure.
Mm-hmm. But we came to that conclusion that we could do it. You can get the dog, I can get the nose ring, and for whoever's listening, it's whatever you want. But like, always do a temperature check on your home of the season and come back to it.
Right. And I think some consistency with the frequency is important. Like habits, you need to create rituals and habits for your family. So the frequency in which y'all will have this family meeting just needs to be the same.
Yeah.
It needs to be on a calendar. It needs to be ideally at a time where y'all both have energy, maybe not too early in the morning. That's when I like to do stuff, and maybe not too late, because that's when I don't like doing stuff. But Christian can thrive around in the evening. So it's like, how do we kind of meet each other in the middle and set your environment up for success?
Right.
And you know what I really enjoy about the family meetings? That because if there's something that's really going on, I could hold it and wait until the family meeting.
True.
Because now it's a controlled environment. We're in a posture of receiving feedback.
Right.
And it's not like, me, sharing some criticism that could throw off your day, and then it gives that wrong energy and then spills into other areas of life, and that's selfish. So I like the idea of having that controlled environment to bring that there, or in counseling.
Right. So, yeah, like a safe space. Like sometimes, like, again, discernment. Okay, this is a safe space to bring something up today. And sometimes the Holy Spirit may say, pray on it. Sometimes the Holy Spirit may say, wait to the family meeting, because we know that this is a place where, like, we're sharing highs, we're sharing the lows, we're sharing schedules, like everything. So it's a free game. So you have to have discernment of when to bring something to your spouse.
Yeah. You know what's interesting though? What? Even when I think about that and I'm like, I'm going to bring that to the family meeting. And when I don't bring it to the family meeting, you know what that means? That means it wasn't even really that important. Because half the time, the things that we complain about,
that's good.
It's not even that important. Because if it was that important, I would have held it all the way to the family meeting. By the time I get to the next day or two, it's going to diminish and go away. And it wasn't really even something that serious.
That's
so it's
so good.
So let it go.
That's
half
good.
The time,
That's good. Now, if it's something pressing where it's literally shifting the temperature of our home, our communication, our posture, no, like, don't let it simmer. Talk about it.
Yeah. But
get on one accord. But if it's something like, okay, I can wait, then you wait.
But also make sure you do it at the right time.
At the right time.
Like maybe it's dinner time. Maybe it's like, but don't disrupt your person's day, because that could throw off the whole day. So either do it early in the morning before the day gets started, or do it at the end of the day. But don't do it in the middle of the day. That's probably just a bad time. Yeah.
At least for you, because of your schedule. So again, they have to know like what flows for them.
Yeah. But I mean, even in their lives, I mean, hopefully they got a schedule where, just you don't want to interrupt your flow state in your other areas of your life. Because again, that's also selfish in the sense that, like, I wouldn't want my partner to go to work and not be productive, because that only impacts our home. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, what's the best time?
Yeah. What has surprised you about marriage?
How hard it is, but how amazing it is too. Like, I never thought it would be this hard, because people say it, but that's usually like anything else. Like, same thing with entrepreneurship. People say, it's hard, but you don't really know.
When you say hard, like what like what's hard?
What's hard about it?
Yeah.
It's just multi. it's just so dynamic and it's so complex. That's why, like, people, when we talk to people who've been married for 40 years, they still say they still learn stuff about each other, and they still are moving and shifting. They never continue to pour into their marriage because it's that complex. That's what makes it hard, right? But it's like, for me, like, breaking down that complexity bit by bit and looking at marriage as the journey, like, and you're solving complexities together. That's what makes hard good. Like, anything that's worth having is hard. Your family, like your relationship with your parents, hard. Relationship with your marriage, hard. So I look at hard, for me, right? Everybody has their own opinion. I look at hard as a good thing.
Got it.
Everything that's a good thing is hard. Working out consistently, hard. You know.
But to be honest, like, when people say, because I'm trying to figure out another word. I don't relate with hard, because hard has such a negative connotation. And like what is a word that, like, can mean difficulty, but because I say this to say, before I got married, everyone, want to give their 2 cents, give their advice. And so many people were so negative, like, marriage is hard. It's hard work. Like, girl, you gotta you don't know what you're getting yourself into. So this posture of hard has become negative. It's
That's fair. I can see
become
that.
like you're signing up for, like, enslavement or something. So
yeah, I can see that.
And that's your word. That could be your word.
Right. But I think for the public, in the sense of, like, if hard is your thing, like, cool. But, like, if that doesn't speak to you, if that's not your language, right? I could see what you mean by that, because there's probably less people who enjoy hard things. Like, I'm wired that way. But so, like, from your lens, and I see that I could see where maybe saying marriage is fulfillment. Like, marriage is life. Like, it does bring life. It brings something to look forward to, because it never ends, right? Assuming you choose to never end, right? Because that's the point. When you go into marriage, you're going in with this mindset of a never ending life together, right?
Right.
So looking at it from that lens is definitely
and
powerful.
that's why I wanted to unpack hard, because, like, everyone's definition of hard, but for you, hard is like good. Like, hard is working out.
I'm a little crazy.
Hard is like your job. Like, hard is like you love the grit, the grind.
Right.
For me, how would I describe marriage? Like, I would say it's a beautiful journey. Like, I think about marriage. I think about our marriage, and it's like every single day I wake up in gratitude. I wake up knowing that, like, I am united with the right person. And it's fun. It's exciting. It's nurturing. It's stretching. It brings tears. It brings laughter. It brings excitement. It brings boredom. It brings growth. Like, I am just so blessed to be in an imperfect godly marriage, and I'm trying to figure out a word.
It's just a being,
It is.
Maybe it's
marriage is life.
Yeah.
Life, like marriage.
Marriage is life. That should be the time.
Marriage is life. Marriage is, because even yesterday we were just getting ice cream, and I was like, marriage, like, our marriage is just like breathing. It's easy. Like, it just comes naturally.
But that's when you on one accord. That's when you on one accord.
Come on now. When you on one accord.
When you on one accord.
When you're on one accord.
Right? Because you got to also say, right, there are people who are hearing you, right, and saying, like, girl, you got it good. Your man, da-da-da-da. Like, and so they kind of can create these, like, discounting of how what you're saying doesn't apply to them.
Okay.
But, like, you also, we're in this state of, like, right now we're, like, on one accord. Like, we worked to get here, right? I think sometimes people, like, they see that, right, and they be like, that's not normal. Right. But no, it's normal when you do the things that create this normality, make it normal.
Right.
So,
because to your point, we have had very, very, very hard moments.
Absolutely.
And it is our posture that has determined the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
It's been our communication, and it's been
it was
boundaries. It's been
it was forced engineering.
Forced engineering.
Like, and maybe that's not right word, but like in the investment world, we call that forced appreciation, right? Like you invest with the desired outcome, and so you force it to improve. So it's like anything else, like force. If you look at, and I'm no scientist, and but I'm sure if you look at the definition of force, it's something that you're creating this, like you're engineering and creating this momentum and movement forward. So I'm forcing, our marriage into the right direction by how I show up, decisions I make, but I can also take us back too. Right. So when I hear, to your point, like when I hear about like this state of gratitude and you waking up in a state of gratitude, it stemmed from that forced, mechanism. Because, you might, I don't know. I don't wake up every morning with gratitude that way. I just choose to change my mindset in the morning so that, because I'm waking up one way and I'm like, man, I'm over whatever.
With me?
Not just, it could be life. It could be you too.
Yeah.
You could be something you said the night before. But then I'm like, you know what, God? But I'm thankful to have a wife like Christian, because I wouldn't choose anyone else. So now I just switch my mindset to a state of gratitude.
So I do notice that you get over things quickly. And I would say I'll get over things more quickly too. Like I used to harbor honey. Like, listen, I remember what you did last month, what you said last week. But I will say, like, you've taught me how to like choose happiness, to choose your mindset for the day. Like how did you naturally be that person? Like I know I may do or say things, and
I don't think I was naturally that way. It was a callus that I created over time because I had to do those things with being an entrepreneur. Like, I don't know. And
what do you do?
What?
Like, how do you shift your mindset? How do you forgive? How do you say, oh, Christian didn't mean that? Or, she's still a beautiful person, although she just got on my nerves.
I just tell myself that it don't serve anybody good. Nobody wins when when you think about like holding a grudge. You literally are hurting yourself and you're hurting the forward progress, right? So I don't like wasting time. Christian will tell you all that. And if I'm wasting time holding a grudge when I could be swapping that out with forgiveness and then movement, so that I want more time in the space of abundance and happiness than I want in the space of like misery, right? So the only way I can do that is by choosing to go in that direction.
Right. And I remember for the longest, y'all, like I would be like, Matt, you're not even human, because you just want everything to be just solved and forgiven, and you don't want to think about negativity. And I'm like, that's not life. Yeah. People have low moments. People get upset. People harbor on things. And Matt's like, no, shift your mindset. And so it took me a while to get to this place. I read a plethora of books. I've done courses to really like, because naturally my mind goes to the negative. Naturally my mind goes to like what's not right. Like I'll walk into a room and be like, this ain't right, that ain't. And I'm like, Christian, you cannot bring that energy into every space.
You've been doing good with that. I'm trying to remember the last time I heard you say something negative. That is
thank you.
Good. Okay. All right.
Because you are your spouse's greatest teacher. Like,
that's good.
You are your spouse's greatest teacher. And sometimes you may want things to shift. And instead of preaching it, you just got to show them how to do it. You got to show them how to get in their word. You got to show them, you got to be praying. You have to be listening to your worship. You have to be devoted to God for him to be like, oh, tell me a little bit more.
Yeah.
So you have to lead by example. And you did that emotionally for me.
And sometimes you make a connection after, right? You know how when they were like, somebody, especially when it came to like parenting, right? They were like, oh, somebody else say it, then it just is gold. But then your parents tell you it's like it go in one ear and out the other. But then I also realized for both of us, we may hear other people say something, but then we also we can kind of connect that to the things that we do. And then we're like, there must be some truth to this, because if everybody else is saying this, and then I also see, you doing it, then it must be something valid to that. Let me go ahead and give this thing a shot,
right?
And see if I can get those same, that same feeling.
Which comes back to like you all having to fight to be on one accord, because when Matt and I are not on one accord, he can have the greatest advice. I don't want to hear it. You're wrong. Good night. Stop talking. Yep. Right? Like, oh my gosh, you think you know it all. But when we're on one accord, I can embrace it. Oh, that's a great idea. Wow. I'm going to think about that. I'm going to implement that. So again, you have to fight to stay on one accord. You have to fight to get the temperature in your home correct, because they could be doing the right thing and it's just not good enough. It's just not right.
Yeah.
So
I'm laughing because I'm like, there's been times where I had to trick you to like taking my advice on something, because I knew somebody else would drop it in there, and then you make a connection, and then I will follow up and talk about it. And that, that's a case in point of why knowing your spouse is important, because at the end of the day, I don't care how I have to do it. It's about serving you and serving the bigger vision.
Right.
So whatever it takes to make it happen, that's what we're going to do.
Amen to that. So, as we get ready to close out, like, how can you, like, what wisdom do you want to impart upon the people, whether they're dating, whether they're divorced, whether they're married, like, what is that golden nugget that, or nuggets that you want to just speak life into the listeners with right now? Maybe it's a quote, a mindset, maybe a book.
It's I would say it's just knowing that it's never 50-50. I think that's one that I've really started to, I think, really embrace and adopt. Is just like, there are days where you could give 90 and I could give 10. There's days where, I could give you 70 and you could give me 30. And knowing that maybe there's a day when we both have less than equaling 100. But you know what? If we both recognize that and we come together as a unit, we can then force that forward, and we can help and support each other to move the ball. So if I'm at 70 and you at 30, I'm trying to do what I can and give, pour into you to get you back up to this equilibrium between the two of us.
Right. That's good.
That's what about you?
I would say first, be present. Be present. We're in a society where like everything is goal centered, goal oriented, where we're going, where we're traveling, what we got to do, what's on our to-do list. But like, just be present. Like yesterday we just walked around the city holding hands, getting ice cream, like not in a rush, like just enjoy life, because life is so precious. And the Bible says like we don't know the day or know the hour, but we want to make sure that we're like smelling the roses and looking at the sun and thanking God for the birds and just being present, because there's going to be a day where your spouse is not there. There's going to be a day where like the joy and the harmony is not what it used to be, and you have to work towards it. So like, how do you embrace your now, the imperfections? How do you still have joy when the money is not in the bank account? How do you still make time for yourself, even when the kids are so demanding? Like, how do you cultivate a space of being present in the now? And then lastly, like, I would say, don't try to be social media's power couple. Like, don't force it. Like, protect your marriage, fortify your marriage. Like, there's times where I'm like, oh, Matt may be mad, or anybody may be mad. I'm gonna go online. I'm gonna do like a subliminal message. Like, I'm gonna go online and I'm gonna do like, protect your marriage. Like, say no to things that you know isn't good for y'all. Say no to people that you know. Don't just over glamorize the good and I want this many likes and we're going to try to be the next. No, like protect and fortify your marriage from people, from things, friends, family, and especially social media. Because like we could totally have a greater presence on social media, but like we are so in tune with our foundation and our legacy and what we're building that like if social media catches a glimpse as we're doing it, cool, fine.
Right.
But that is not like, we're not sitting up here strategizing on how we're going to no, we're strategizing on how we're going to serve our community. We're strategizing on how we're going to have peace in our home, how we're going to love one another.
That's really good. And I know we're supposed to be closing out, but I got to hit on this because like, I feel like people spend so much energy strategizing on those things and less energy strategizing on pouring in themselves and like thing that actually matters. It's like how they talked about how something I found like very interesting. They talked about the more you spend on your wedding, they said that it was a higher probability that you actually divorce.
Wow.
And it was crazy to me to even think about that because I'm like, yeah, people really spend so much time, energy, and money on a day, but less energy, time, and money on a lifetime that y'all gonna have together. And that is literally, it was like, boom, like, whoa, like that is crazy to think about, but so true.
Yeah. Because I love both of our weddings. We had a COVID wedding and the second wedding, like we spent like it wasn't, we could have spent more.
Oh, no doubt.
We could have had the carriages and all of that and the lights and the pump and stuff. Like we could have had all of that, but like we know our foundation. And it was so magical and it was exactly what we wanted. But that is interesting that's how. So he put in the financial part of weddings. I can say spiritually that when I'm doing counseling and if the couple is talking about the dress and the colors and who's there and they're not talking about the marriage, I have to put some brakes on it. Like the marriage and the wedding are two totally different occasions. And if you're pouring everything into this wedding, then you have to understand that your marriage is going to suffer. Your marriage starts before you even say I do. The posture that you have as a husband and a wife, like the wedding is cool, all right, whatever. The marriage is a lifetime. Wedding is just a moment.
Yeah.
So priorities is important.
Absolutely.
Wow. I feel like I talked a lot.
Listen, you was speaking wisdom, girl.
Well, we got to close out.
Wow.
I thank you so much
we gotta do this again.
We do. We have to do this again. And if there's something that y'all want us to talk about, feel free. We're an open book and we want to save marriages. We do feel that this is our ministry. So we just want to thank y'all for watching and for listening. We encourage you all to like, share, subscribe, and continue to rise because the world is waiting. Thank you to my guest. I'm gonna kiss.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right. We love y'all. Continue to rise. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Rising with Christian podcast. There is someone you know who could be blessed by this episode, so share it with a friend, be a blessing, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. All right, guys, have a wonderful week, and don't forget to rise today because your future is now.